What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at Slurpuff. It's a bit of an interesting core breaker in this meta because it has access to both Energy Ball and Flamethrower, and both of these moves hit a lot of the meta for super effective damage. Just going down the list here, look at this. We've got Lapras, super effective, Ferrothorn, super effective, Tinkaton, Klefki, Amoonguss, Leavanny, Abomasnow, Tropius, Mawile, Superior, Jellicent, and Cacturne. So yeah, a lot of the top meta. It's got a little bit of a pacing issue. It's a little bit slow, but overall very strong as a safe swap because it usually has that few Fairy Wind advantage. So without further ado, let's take a look at some battles. We're pairing it with Jellicent and Alolan Ninetales, a core that I've already showcased once on this channel. It's a very strong core, what can I say? But anyways, in the first match, we've got a great lead in Tentacruel. Now, Tentacruel is actually staying in this matchup, which kind of surprised me, which is why you see me overfarming here, kind of expecting them to go for a catch, but they didn't go for it. In fact, they just went for a Scald. That allows me to get to 100 energy and throw the Shadow Ball. One Shadow Ball will not be enough to KO, but at this point, they're in Surf range once that connects, because I will be able to Hex Farm down after this Surf connects. And it does, puts them in one Hex Farm down, and we've taken Switch, but they stayed in that matchup, so I'm instantly getting out, and it is a Lapras in the back, so this is great to bait out because our Ninetales doesn't want to see this, and that makes sense why they stayed in with their lead matchup because they were ABA weak to the Jellicent. And at this point, we've connected with the Energy Ball, so Slurpuff has kind of done its job, and then we have Ninetales for their Pokemon in the back. So we're actually able to make it to a second Energy Ball, and that will be enough to KO. And now it's just the Golisopod. Can we make it to another charge move? We can. You should just go for the Energy Ball here. Flamethrower and Energy Ball are actually clones of each other, but Energy Ball has a chance to potentially debuff your opponent. Their defense anyways. I come back with the Jellicent just because I know they're at basically back-to-back moves, so I just want to force their energy, and then I can come in with Alolan Ninetales with a 2 shield advantage, and even though my fast move is resisted, by the time I get to back-to-back Psyshocks, I will have put them in Psyshock range. That being said, they will have to make it to 3 charge moves before I'm able to make it to these back-to-back moves, and they just do not have enough of an energy lead to get there. They realize what's happening, so they just let that go. Also, my opponent went for an X-Scissor there. X-Scissor is resisted on Fairy, so just go for the Aqua Jet. But good lead in the next match. We have a Lapras on the lead. Everything the Lapras can learn is resisted, except for the Psywave. Naturally, their fast move. But that being said, we have a fantastic matchup here because everything is neutral on our end. And they actually eat a charge move, and then they come in with the brand new Pokemon Tinkaton. Tinkatink is the like first evolution or whatever, not first evolution, but the like first stage. Either way, I don't have a great answer, but I chipped with a Flamethrower. I know I can eat one super effective Heavy Slam on my Slurpuff, so I come in with the Slurpuff because I have super effective coverage at least on the Slurpuff. Flamethrower is shielded, but they're not going to be able to outpace. Tinkaton has great bulk and great typing, but its pacing isn't great, and its charge moves aren't fantastic. I mean, they're okay because they're stab, but they're not anything extraordinary. So I'm going to maintain Switch here, which is nice. Being a mono Fairy, beating a Fairy Steel is awesome. And we're able to make it on like literally 1 HP to an Energy Ball against this Lapras, which is huge because we actually are able to grab a shield, and then they instantly throw, trying to deny my fast move. But we actually get our fast move through, which is pretty rare. And then they are able to make it to a second one, but this is another resisted move, so I'm fine letting this go. I'm guessing they are weak to the Jellicent in the back, which is why they're even staying in this matchup. That being said, I've got a shield advantage, so I probably will be fine here, and it is the Wheezing in the back, and because I know they're probably not on Brutal Swing because they wouldn't switch out of that matchup, I just farm up to the Surf, I chip, and now all I have to do is make it to a Psyshock before they make it to back-to-back Sludges. I believe they are at back-to-back Sludges here, but I don't think one will be enough to KO, so I just click the move, just kind of getting it off as quick as I can. They try to overfarm there, and unfortunately that costs them, and we're able to take that win. Okay, into the next match. Tentacruel lead, third good lead in a row. Jellicent picking up some great leads. We've got an Amoonguss safe swap, and they're on they are the Shadow, which is pretty nice for us because we can outpace, make it to a Weather Ball. That they let that go and they live, which is unfortunate because a Sludge Bomb will 100% KO here. But they are on Grass Knot, unfortunately, so we do shield that up. But it's okay because we will still be able to get to a Psyshock here, and Psyshock is super effective damage here. It looks like we might be able to get to 2, and if we can get to 2, that'd be great, because 1 is not enough to KO, but 2, which we do get to, will either grab a shield or the knockout, and my opponent does elect to shield, which is pretty surprising because they are aligned to a Jellicent, and it is a Cacturne in the back. And unfortunately for my opponent, I have a great answer here. I will let the Trailblaze through, and then just go for, ooh, jeez, that did way more damage than I expected. I don't even throw a charge move there because I needed that Fairy Wind chip damage. And at this point, they're just going to go for another Trailblaze to boost this last Sucker Punch that is going to connect, and that does so much damage to the Jellicent. And now I have to make it to back-to-back moves before they're able to KO, and they're already out of move. Can we make it to back-to-back Surfs before they get to a second charge move? The answer looks like it's going to be yes. Here comes one Surf. If we do not lose CNP here, they're not even at the move. Surf should be enough to KO from this range, and we are able to take that win. Well played though from my opponent, making that close. Into the next match, we have a Dugong on the lead, so 4th good lead in a row. They come in with a Tropius. We have a fantastic response in a Alolan Ninetales. They will be able to connect with a Leaf Braid here, but this will not be enough to KO. It's a very strong move, but it only does about 50% to the Alolan Ninetales. However, Air Slashes will start to add up, so I have to be kind of wary of that. And they do shield, so maybe potentially looking to flip switch here, but unfortunately they're not going to be able to, especially if they try and throw on alignment, because that just means that I will be able to get to 2 Weather Balls here, and I will shield that up to maintain alignment. They do let the second Weather Ball go because they know I will get to another charge move. They come back in with the Dugong. Their fast move is resisted here, so I might be able to make it to 2 here if I throw in good timing. In comes one Psyshock. Can they get the resisted farm down? They can. That is unfortunate, but we can come in with our Jellicent. Once again, not getting our fast move denied, which is really surprising because I got it in a lot of these matchups. And it is a Golisopod in the back, so I'm going to overfarm here, building up way past the Shadow Ball, baiting with a Surf because I think I'll need residual energy, and we do grab that shield, which is massive. And now we can just come in with the Slurpuff. We can let one Aqua Jet go. And they go for X-Scissor. This is the second opponent that's gone for X-Scissor. That's very strange. I know I can live an Aqua Jet now, especially if they go for it now. But it doesn't look like I would have been able to survive 2. So that's a huge misplay for my opponent because they would have at least grabbed that last shield. But in comes an Energy Ball that does connect. They switch out. Can I get to an Energy Ball? No, they get a huge farm down. I think what I have to do is call a bait here. I think I have to call this Icy Wind, and it's a Drill Run. They full send it. That is scary, but now all we have to do is overfarm. We build up to the Shadow Ball, play to the CMP tie with their next charge move, which definitely would have been an Icy Wind. Shadow Ball is enough to KO. Can we make it to the Surf? We can. We actually made it to a Shadow Ball there as well, but living on 1 HP, making it to the Surf. Surf is enough to KO the Golisopod, and just like that, we're able to take the win. Okay, mirror lead in the next match. So this is our toughest lead yet, I believe. What I like to do now is I like to full send the Shadow Ball and call a bait. Fortunately, I do win CMP a lot in these matchups because I do have that 4 attack Jellicent, and we are able to grab that shield, which is nice. And now I'm just going to call the bait because if I don't get the call right, I can just come in with my Slurpuff immediately. They get out instantly because I call the bait, and it's a Cacturne in the back. This time, I will absolutely respect this because Dynamic Punch would probably KO the Alolan Ninetales there because it is neutral damage. That being said, we get the full farm down, which is massive. Are they going to come back with a Jellicent? They are. And now, unfortunately for my opponent, here comes 2 Shadow Psyshocks coming their way. It looks like 2 won't be enough to KO just quite, but I think I can get a Hex Snipe because they're at only a Surf now, but unfortunately I'm unable to get there. They actually get to a charge move, and it is the Shadow Ball, but I'm just going to let that go because they probably have an answer in the back, and they do. So in comes Tropius. We are able to make it to the Flamethrower because we did get a slight energy lead. They let that go, understanding they can live 1. I have to let one go as well because I have to live one as well. In comes Leaf Blade. That actually doesn't do too much to the Slurpuff. Slurpuff has some decent bulk on it. It honestly really surprised me. Obviously, we do have some pretty nice IVs on it, but still in a pretty good situation. They are at this point at back-to-back Leaf Blades, so I kind of just have to let this go and trust in Alolan Ninetales in the back. They're actually on Brutal Swing. They try and snipe with their Jellicent. They are unsuccessful. We snipe with our Alolan Ninetales, and my opponent just resigns the match. Cacturne on the lead. Okay, this is our first terrible lead. Gonna get out into the Slurpuff. They do not have a great answer. They have a Lapras in the back, maybe expecting a Tentacruel, and this would be a great answer for them, but unfortunately we are able to outpace and make it to an energy ball because they're a little slow on the switch. Sparkling Aria 1 is not enough to KO, and we will be able to outpace to a second charge move just barely. It looks like that was a CMP tie, which is absolutely massive. In comes the energy ball. We grab the shield and their energy is wasted, so that's all we could ask for in this matchup. Sparkling Aria does take us out, but now we can get a full farm down. They actually come in with a Feraligatr. That is a really smart switch for my opponent, understanding that I am probably weak to that Cacturne in the... they know I'm weak in the back, but they also know I'm probably weak to water in the back. So that was a very smart switch. We full send the Shadow Ball, understanding there's our only win con, and then realizing that my opponent was still switch locked, they just resigned the match. Cradily on the lead. Okay, now we're picking up some bad leads. Instantly coming in with the Slurpuff. Are they going to chip with a Rock Tomb before they dip? They are. Now this is always hard to play out of because now you're debuffed, and even if you have super effective coverage, actually they do come in with a Jellicent. So let's see, is 2 energy balls enough to KO is the question. Because I don't think 1 Surf from this range is enough to KO, and it looks like 2 energy balls will, so I'm going to throw immediately, which is on the CMP tie with when they get to their Shadow Ball, and that's what you cannot do. You cannot give Slurpuff an energy lead because this thing can always grab shields. It has really great coverage into this meta, and it was CMP tie with the Shadow Ball, which is absolutely massive. I unfortunately get 1 turn switch here, which is super bad because that means I do not get a Hex through that I should, and I should still be able to get the full farm down. Looks like I will. Oh, and they live on 1 HP. I tried to go for the catch on my Ninetales, but I was stuck in the animation. And because I don't get my fast move through, they are able to grab 2 shields from my Jellicent, which is super annoying. They should have only been able to grab 1. I should still have a shield remaining. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play with the CMB tie, make sure they're energy dry when I come in with my Ninetales, and I will be able to grab that final shield from my opponent, which is massive. Now Grass Knot will be enough to KO here, especially if they go for it. They do, and they full send. And now I can just come in with my Alolan Ninetales, and because it was CMP and they wasted all their energy, I'm able to get to a charge move here, which is absolutely massive. What is in the back? It is a Greninja. Now, are 2 Weather Balls enough to KO is the question. And will they be able to outpace is also the question. And can we survive a Hydro Cannon? That's the third question. Do we have answers? Here comes a Hydro Cannon. We barely live it. We would have been able to shield that up and would have been able to get to a Weather Ball. And it probably might have put them in farm down range. I don't know. It would have been close, but that is super frustrating. But we do take a loss in that game. Either way, we've got a pretty neutral lead in the next match. We have a Gastrodon. I've started baiting here because I noticed a lot of opponents have shielded on their Gastrodon when I build up to the Shadow Ball. But then they do make a nice play, and they play to the CMP tie. When I do reach my second charge move, which is the Shadow Ball, they do full send the Earth Power, though, which is massive. And I am going to connect with a Shadow Ball. No, I'm not, actually. They're going to double shield their lead. They're really fighting for switch. At this point, I'm going to shield back because I'm like, what is in the back that is either this weak to Jellicent, and they reveal it immediately. It's a Dugong. Now I'm going to chip with a Shadow Ball because that will put it in Energy Ball range, even if they get a debuff here, right? So they're going to Icy Wind. That's fine. We'll live this very comfortably, and then we're going to overfarm as much as humanly possible. They should be 4 fast moves away from the Icy Wind, so we throw right before they get to their last charge move. I probably could have thrown 1 more and then thrown on CMP, which would have been fine. But because we overfarmed there, we're able to make it to a Flamethrower. I overfarmed there watching for that catch, but my opponent does not go for it. In comes a Flamethrower. That nearly KOs the Mawile, but now what do? Are we going to come in with the Ninetales? We are, but then we're going to instantly switch Peekaboo player with our Jellicent. Did they full send a player up? They did, and that is absolutely crazy. Now all we have to do is make it to Weather Ball. Weather Ball will be enough to KO. The Mawile will be energy dry here, which is perfect because even though Fire Fang is super effective, they're not going to get that farm down before we can get to like 3 Powder Snows. And we are able to take the win. Cradily on the lead in the next match, instantly switching in a Slurpuff, and it looks like my opponent is going to play it out the exact same as the last opponent. So we just have to take this charge move. What is that Pokemon in the back that I do not want to come in with? And it's a Jellicent. So a lot of Pokemon kind of core broken by the coverage on Slurpuff, which is really nice. But we're going to do the exact same thing. Right as they get to the Shadow Ball, we're going to throw the Energy Ball. An Energy Ball from this range is actually going to grab a shield, not the knockout. And they are going to throw their charge move. This time it's just a Surf, and it is enough to KO from that range, but I think it's because they went for that extra Hex. Once again, getting 1-turn switch. Man, this game, like, it sucks. Like, they need to optimize this shit. It is real bad. This time, at least I realized that, so I know I'm not going to be able to get the farm down, which actually forced me to throw energy, which I shouldn't have to throw in the first place. But they actually shield that up, and then they come in with a Cradily, maybe understanding that the rock type coverage would be effective in the back. It is pretty neutral in pretty much everything in this meta. That being said, I am able to shield that up. Can I get the farm down after this Weather Ball connects is the question. And it looks like no, so I am going to be forced to throw some energy here, and I think they did bank a charge move on that Jellicent. It could be the Shadow Ball as well, but I'm not really worried about that, because their Pokemon in the back is probably weak to Jellicent. No, because that would make more sense team-wise. And it's a Doxbun in the back. And we are able to make it to a Shadow Ball. Is Shadow Ball enough? No, not quite. Can we make it to the Surf? Just barely not able to, but this should only be a Psychic Fangs, and this is a non-stab Psychic Fangs from a bulky Charmer. It doesn't KO. Here comes a Surf. Full charging the Surf. Surf is enough to KO the Doxbun. 1 Hex, not enough to KO, but 2 more Powder Snows before their second Hex gets to knock out, and we're able to take that win. So I couldn't speak today, but other than that, this team was very solid. Slurpuff was really, really cool. I had a subscriber recommend it to me in the comments section, and I think multiple subscribers actually, but one in particular in my last video, and I was like, you know what, that's a great shout. You know, like, this thing seems like it's got great coverage. I'm surprised it's not being used more, but I think that was just because Wheezing is so strong, but I haven't been seeing too many Wheezings in the last few days, so just its ability to get walled by things when you're on the wrong moveset is just really tough. But I did fall. A little PSA, I lost like a lot of elo in the last day or so, trying something that was super spicy. Did not work. I could not get wins with it, so that's pretty unfortunate. But this team brought me back up a little bit, went from like 2550 to like 2650, so we'll get back up there. But that's gonna be it from me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.